are we going to be heard in Baha'i spaces?
I think part of repairing that relationship is asking right off, what do you need? Instead of going, I think you need this. That's paternalism. That happens a lot with the relationship between foreign religions and Native American people.
Coming from the population, I always felt there was an injustice somehow to that, and I didn't know how to explain it. The obstacles were, as this group of young people were arising and trying to find language and expression of their own thoughts and what we were experiencing with the core activities, that we ran into paternalism.
The Navajo have always been here in this land, in the area between the four sacred mountains, which encompasses the Four Corners region, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. This relationship between the Western world and Native communities has been a turbulent one, and many indigenous people in the United States weighed down by this really terrible history of colonialism. Colonialism is the total subjugation and dominance of one nation over another, forcing upon that nation their beliefs and ideas and religious systems, social, economic systems. In the same sense, paternalism is the attitude that we know best for you, and regardless of your beliefs or your will for your own self or your own tribe. This is why Native Americans tune out immediately when you begin to tell them about another religion, because they're expecting that attitude of paternalism and that Western colonial attitude that they know what's best for you, and thereby they're not giving Native Americans a choice. The attitude has persisted, and bluntly, that attitude is racist. It's racism. It's embedded in our very American culture, and it permeates just about everything we do and think. And the Native communities have, in a sense, built walls against it.
How does an indigenous community move from a narrative of oppression to a narrative of integration and ultimately to a narrative of oneness? Here in this cluster with the indigenous friends is that many of them are beginning to arise to think about how does community building look like within our nation? Because our dear indigenous friends have not only, just the wider community to think about, but they also have to think about like this cultural element that is important to this walk that we're having.
It's going to take many, many friends to learn how to address some of the social ills and the prevailing thoughts of habit while learning to be in the arena of service with others while we develop our spiritual identity and begin to invite others in the social and spiritual transformation of our community. Culturally, there's been many decisions on behalf of Native people have been made because it's in their benefit. We know better and they don't. And that well-meaning, just loving friends who are coming into some of those modes of thought.
Listening to stories of prejudice, stories of racism, and really it was building capacity to not only listen, but then move that conversation forward so that we could move towards oneness.
The small group of Native friends, we felt like our own voices was limited. How are we going to be heard in Baha'i spaces and institutional meetings? And so we quickly found that if we find what we need to say directly from the guidance, then it will be heard. The House of Justices is the challenge for friends everywhere, is to turn to the guidance and then act upon it. And we felt like that was the first part of our journey. How do we walk with our Baha'i community? We were taking excerpts out of the guidance that talked about empowering a population, a village. So language like historically significant populations and the need to learn about the dynamics when a population embraces the institute process. And as families take ownership of this, how do we integrate perspectives and culture and language and harmonize it? And that's a new layer that we haven't experienced before. And now the demands are that we're asked to have collective unity and achieve greater heights of unity that have never been experienced before. We're going back to the guidance, we're looking at things like the culture of the people should be integrated and how, what elements of culture in light of Baha'u'llah's revelation are being reinforced.
What appeals to Native people is that Baha'i faith is not asking them to throw aside your Native beliefs and your Native religion and ceremonies. They actually encourage the Navajo people and Native American people to continue their way of life as Native Americans and to hold on to their language.
The House of Justice has said spiritual kinship, and that meant a lot to this community, and that we were saying, yes, this kinship and establishing our familial relationships immediately by using our clan.
When you go to someone's home, you always introduce yourself. And they want to hear what your story is.
My grandma's from here, and so there's so many people who are black sheep, so who are the Bethlehem clan.
Then you find out if they're related to you.
They'll say Shadeja, always someone's little sister.
I think that's what really opened up the culture, the beauty way.
I haven't been into a community where I've had many relations, so my clan builds that automatic trust and relationship.
It makes you feel like you have a relative out there, that you're not the only person. Ako ebony na e Baha'i faith and ni tadating and dakojo ha acho sedatosen ne ya pray e na tangalkei heishi sedas inigi ni hinahaga ya sedas en di Baha'i faith edana to en la yo tahalt ida ya to ni hayat to tadi ni dana Halan lede ya betan hitishindo ben hiata ho ai benina chutas a kuiche jo benina en lede hojana hasli da nile in Baha'i faith ya tsodati a nilsho unity asai judasa balashla adoni jeda no bets ando eti ado unda asko jo jeni dan den na kre
bahasi unda junda la asolchi aje digini dahwal do citizen da dahwal lana ka dishno bahashna zan hikit be so that those liko ahadat that's what I saw, and then do one month occasion it do also I think go direction it never done long but I would need to I thought what they need I thought that was so this is an hikit ela
yeah
ni ko ada onda ko I thought ya but when sentence ko
是的眼里呢是的眼里呢是有呢是这个呢是Kusina sister she let it Eva says highly am not awesome no Kusina she had that was a good visit. We'll see you. Akushi.
Social action can be something as simple as a group of friends in a neighborhood identify an issue and they say, oh my gosh, this is an area of need, and together they consult on how to address that issue.
In searching the community, what are the integrative spaces and where do people come together? And amongst Native communities, it's sports, basketball, volleyball, cross country.
Running has always been a part of our culture. We've always been taught to wake up early when the sun rises, say our prayers, and run. And a lot of that has to do with endurance and your mind and your spirit. It's been a huge part of our culture. One of the things that we're trying currently is sportsmanship and service. It was working with a local team on the Navajo Nation to have conversation with them about service. For example, we did a carousel saying, okay, what are the service you do in all these areas? And had the kids rotate around. And service in their families was the most comments. I said, see, it's already within our culture. It's family. We do a lot of service for our family. Now we could asked them, okay, so what is the service you want to do with your community? Chopping wood, work on their road to make it more nice because it's very muddy. And so we're happy to incorporate that within sportsmanship and service.
It's true that in our Navajo culture, we don't have a word for religion. And that's because there's no need for this word to identify what we do, because religion is an everyday living practice. It's our actions and our words, and it's in our thought process, it's in our philosophy, it's the steps that we take every moment of our lives.
I would say we're at the very early stages of this journey, of this walk, and we're really learning how to learn to listen.
Approaching Native people with a new attitude of humility, an attitude where we see no form of racism or paternalism of any kind.
Then what you begin to see is that really at the root of paternalism is a lack of understanding of spiritual principles, like the spiritual principle of oneness.
Together we are merging these Blessing Way themes with the Baha'i themes.
We might start remembering the song's order, okay? So when we do Eineyana, we do this, right? Okay, so first we're gonna walk in beauty, talk in beauty, right? And then we're gonna sing in beauty. Sing in beauty. I walk in beauty, yes I do, yes I do. I talk in beauty, yes I do, yes I do. I sing of beauty, just for you and only you. Hey ya, hey ya, hey yo.
How can the Baha'i faith offer or repair this relationship that has ruined the relationship between Native people and non-Native people? I think it's really in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. And one of the teachings is we have to completely eradicate all forms of prejudice. And I think as American people, we sometimes think about ourselves as not being prejudiced, but we have them. Like I said, they're embedded in our thinking.
One of the names of Baha'u'llah is the Blessed Beauty. In fact, to close our traditional prayers with Hojana Skli, we're actually calling on that ancient beauty to be restored, that our beauty in the past has been restored.
Baha'i faith is for everyone, everybody that has a heart, that is breathing, and that has 5 fingers. Digin baalchana tanitle ein kwana hosani katnan hidla akwa ben hit citizen hallo be yat eho is ana rebik eho jon yat eho walk in beauty with everyone.